Welcome back to Tales from the Fortress. On tonight's episode, Community Updates. The community has been a participating factor of Team Fortress 2 since practically the beginning. Whether it be making the mercs memes to people even outside of the game, or its community, making maps and weapons for the game, or making gigantic SFM projects with multiple animators and participating in officially Valve-endorsed competitions, the community has been the horsepower running this Source Engine-powered machine. But that doesn't mean that everything they've done has been kosher, though. In fact, many things have been just terrible. Including some of my own contributions in the past, straight-up adult films, fan fiction that was literally just I have no mouth and I must scream with TF2 characters plopped into the plot. I mean, some of these things are just awful, and I mean it. Among these things, Valve has taken notice and has allowed us, the community, to make something that far exceeds the scope of any workshop submission ever could. I'm talking a full-fledged community update. I'm not talking one, I'm not talking two, I'm talking 3 full community updates, and they all just, they just all suck. I actually don't know what to say about this. It's hats. It's just hats. Literally, 100% just hats. No maps, taunts, weapons, just hats. A tiny trailer and a comic went with it, but do you know what really hit people wrong about this one too? They were just robot versions of already existing hats, including the gibbous. Seriously, it might be a bit misleading to say I'm talking about 3 when it's actually just 2, and what we'd now call a patch with a cosmetic case, but I might be being a bit too harsh. The hats are very, very good for what they're worth, being robo versions of already existing hats that were already pretty good kinda makes them okay, at least by default. This was Valve's first venture into community updates, something they'd try again and again and again, and it would continue to be harder to juggle with each passing one. This was a fantastic short film, and I wanted to talk about that first and foremost because it was the main selling point of the update, arguably, and was in fact not initially being made as part of an update. James McVie was actually a pretty accomplished animator within not just TF2's community, but has also been a major part in another of Valve's fan communities, Black Mesa, a game I covered as last year's Halloween special. He became sort of the figurehead of the end-of-the-line update as well. He was the director and probably did help quite a bit in the animation department. He also made Practical Problems, one of the first SFM animations that used motion capture. There was a lot of hype around this update, a hype train, if you may. After Robotic Boogaloo, TF2 was kind of playing heavily into the hat game gag, adding 30 or 40 hats it seemed like with every update, with questionable aesthetics around them. New weapons would have been a godsend in 2015, and also, if I must trigger your PTSD for a second...
Bonus ducks!
God.
Bonus ducks!
Why?
Bonus ducks! Bonus ducks!
Why did they reuse this voice line from the Halloween event? Was it recorded for the Halloween update and then used for this? Vice versa? Was Nolan North just huffing rubber duck fumes? I don't know, you don't know, and I bet Valve doesn't even know. The update as a whole... Geez. First of all, they promised quite a bit, which was probably mistake number 1. A focus on non-cosmetics, including new weapons and a themed map to go with it. Snowplow. Most of the major things in this update were cut for the sake of being added in official Valve updates. Okay, officially, they didn't meet the quality cut, or were too confusing for new players.
Buzzwords that don't really mean anything.
Seriously, okay, Valve can and has broken amazing ground with its games, like Half-Life, including scooping up popular mods to take into full games in their own engine, something almost certainly never done before them, or at least not to the extent. But why did they have to rob these guys? We do know for sure one weapon in that bunch was shipped in a different update, and Skyman said in her video that it was probably the Tide Turner, taken for Love and War, months before End of the Line shipped. I've also heard it was the Backscatter from some unverified sources, but to be clear, it is completely unknown which weapon it was because that information was likely locked behind an NDA of some sort, but do not worry, we got another fucking all-class asterisk melee weapon. Great. Snowplow has a crazy story behind it. It was cut for being too confusing, and would have been the only thing for making this update just be hats again. And I cannot say this enough, got cut. The map is such a straightforward linear map on both stages, practically a straight line in fact, and it's not too different from an attack defend control point map, with the only big difference being the damage to the train being the timer, and it goes down every 35 seconds that blue fails to capture a point. I'm talking about it here, in End of the Line section, and not in a gunmetal video or its own dedicated video, because End of the Line fucking deserved it. These guys put so much work into this map for this update with this SFM quality just to be renowned now as a lazy community update with a duck journal that probably no one bought because it came off as a lazy, lackluster update. I wish I could say more positive things about it, but all of this just amounts to quite literally, again, just hats. Fuck! Okay. The pool party taunt got added, which was cool, unusual effects, and some kick-ass IRL merch. Small things, but still, many of the promises never got met, and honestly, I can't even blame the team here. They did everything they could. I know they did. They've made it abundantly clear they did. This update let a lot of people down, and understandably and honestly, I can't say I blame anyone for thinking that. Not that I blame the team behind it either. The whole thing is a mess of shifting blame, and that makes it hard to come to any kind of real conclusion on it if you don't really look into what happened behind the scenes. While Valve is mainly to blame for the whole ordeal, taking content out for their own updates, practically cock-blocking the team, in my honest opinion, I was with the majority of people who thought the update was lackluster. Again, I loved TF2 at the time. I still do. I wanted to support the community endeavors, so I bought the Duck Journal to show that. Going any further on the topic would be kicking a dead horse, so I guess it's time for the big star of the show. Where do I begin? This update, much akin to End of the Line, was promoted heavily within the game. Posters advertising a movie night were displayed in several maps, along with traditional I Want to Believe posters. The coolest part of this is the Orwell-era radio shows from the fictional, but not really, KKBC. Complete with radio dramas, advertisements, and debates featuring one guy the station likes and one that they don't, with neat references to the TF2 universe and breaking news. For Pete's sake, say what you will of the update itself, but the Critcast actually puts on a good show. There's a whole neat storyline here to listen to, and I actually did listen to each of them because I didn't even know these were a thing. They are so neat, I love them. It's amazing when I can find out something about this game that I didn't know beforehand. But enough of that scheisse. On to the meat of the update. Invasion was, again, met pretty poorly by fans. The update itself is fine. It was a bit lackluster, again, but fine. Many maps, the return of Arena for once, really? A 2-part art pass? which looks fantastic. I mean, you probably know my thoughts on 2 Fort, but for a community update, this is fantastic visually. 4 spacey-themed reskins, the Capper, the Shooting Star, the Bat Saber, and a Geiger counter. Cool. An SFM that is worth talking about. I mean, the Barn Destruction, I would argue, is on par with the train scene in End of the Line. It was made by many of the same people who made the SFM short Little Pyro, which is another all-time classic. Harry 101 UK, Brent Kennedy, Abdullah, they did amazing work on this. The content is on par with a standard Valve update. The content had some good and it had some bad on many fronts, but this taunt is definitely not a bad one. I'm a fucking sucker for 80s movies references. Practically everything in it was sourced from the deeper community from contests that were disguised as innocent little competitions for various themes. Space cosmetics and maps, specifically Mercs vs. Aliens and cosmetic contests that were held on TF2maps.net, and the biggest caveat are the weapons, which came from the workshop according to an anonymous leaker. I'm sure you want to hear about the controversy. I want to be upfront here, I was a first-hand witness in the community to this fucking shit show back on the old major update speculation forums, and it was a fantastic fiasco filled with betrayal, drama, and in some cases just pure laziness. And to protect myself here, all of the stuff that I'm discussing is alleged. It's a rumor mill, and some of the stuff is well known and true, while others could be hearsay. I'll be assuming it's true for the sake of the video because most of it has rarely been disproven, honestly, but keep in mind, I'm not taking sides here. The team involved in the update took issue with payout rates. Bang and Ronan apparently being paid far more than most of the other members involved, which you would assume as they were the project leads. But considering that some of the people were definitely putting in way more work than these two project leads ever were, and the third anonymous project lead was getting 6% to their 33 and 20. Crikey indeed, my man. This was the biggest problem with Invasion. The team constantly had conflict among them. Some said things were fine behind the scenes, and some said the contrary. Some even blamed the heads of the project personally, and some leaked delays, and before long, the Invasion update hype had died down. Especially since within much of the dedicated community, it had been leaked over and over and over and known of many times after months of discussion and teases. There was a point I remember the update was all set to ship, ready to hit the button, and it got delayed because there were apparently some coding issues and Bang hadn't completed the update page. I do have a vivid memory of it being rumored that the page wasn't even started at all at this point, but again, rumors and hearsay. This throwaway account actually practically leaked the entire update. Very few specifics were given, but everything here was added in some form or fashion. Critscast, who, as I mentioned, had a lot to do with the update. It had a 4-page behind-the-scenes update page styled blog post. Reading it gave off a very different vibe than what the community got from its initial release and aura surrounding it. It feels bizarrely upbeat, looking back in hindsight. Of course, they couldn't release a post bashing the team, but it does feel very uncanny. And it did shed some light on the fact that Valve did put work into it themselves. There were also discussions on making an art pass for Upward rather than 2 Fort. And it just feels like so much happened at the time, and yet I have so little to say. I don't want this to be a verbatim read of leaked DMs, posts, conversations on the MUS. If you're curious, look into this Reddit post for any and all information on the update's controversy in one neat little package. I love this community, but to say they've never made any mistakes is wrong. All of these updates had some good intention behind them by most people, and whether it be not having a lot of wiggle room for a first-of-its-kind update, being robbed by the company that they wanted to help, or just practically falling apart from the inside. These 3 updates and their reception from fans is now well known to be the reason community updates really haven't been attempted in the last 5 years, despite the many various projects that have involved the community's contributions. With the Last Stand update having some sort of significant impact on the Left 4 Dead community, it is reasonable to be hopeful for another community update again, but maybe keep your hopes down to earth. And if you get that hype train moving too fast, it'll derail pretty quickly. And I don't have a robotic boogaloo pun. Fuck. Hello, and thank you for watching the video. This was supposed to be a 1,000 subscriber special, but now I guess it's a 5,000 subscriber special, because the count has literally quintupled in the time I've started making this video, which is fine, I guess. Actually, it's very appreciated. I wanted to say a few words. First, keep an eye out for the next video. It's probably going to be shorter, but it's going to be easier to make than this one was because, again, it's back to just covering a single weapon until the next big milestone, I guess. And also, make sure you join the Discord and subscribe and keep the notification on so that way you won't miss the next video in case you've missed all the live streams that I've been doing over on Twitch. I like to play games with viewers. We're working on some stuff for you guys to participate in, so keep your eye out for that. They'll be live on Twitch or on YouTube, right here. Just depends on what you prefer to view. Also, you like the setup? The green screen setup? Yeah, I liked it too. That's why I used it. I hope to see you in the next one, so take care.